people coming in. So we'll just allow 1 or 2 minutes to get everyone to log in. I think we'll take this time to do some introductions and housekeeping. I'll start off by saying, hi, everyone. My name is Sonia. I'll be one of your moderators today. And I just want to run through some housekeeping whilst we're getting situated. So first of all, this session going to be recorded and shared with everyone after we're done. We are going to be running this session with a Q&A element at the end. So the way we're going to format this today is we're going to have a discussion at the beginning of the webinar, and then we will have a Q&A session at the end, of which I ask everyone to please look at your Q&A icon at the bottom of your Zoom link and pop in your questions there, and we'll get to them live with everyone once we're done. So without further ado, Paul, I'll leave it to you to do some intros on today's session.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Sonia. So ladies, gentlemen, and everybody in between, I'm Paul. Thank you so much for giving up your lunchtime to join us today. I'm one of the directors of Breakout Beauty. If you are a founder of a beauty product, it's a 6-week program that's completely free that will give you every single thing you need to do to scale your brand, to get it into Boots, to get it into retail, to learn how to raise investment and operationalize a TikTok strategy. So if you're looking to go big on your brand and your company, urge you to apply. I'm going to try and keep the intro really, really short because I know that everyone's really keen to hear from Grace, Alice, and Chelsey. So just one more housekeeping. Please add all of your questions into the Q&A. We'll try and get to them towards the end. Keep the questions coming. And with that, I think I'll hand over to Grace, Alice, and Chelsey to introduce yourselves and maybe start with you, Grace.
Yeah, sure. So hi, everyone. Great to be here to share more about how we look for brands at Boots. So my role at Boots is I look after the global trends team and also a new kind of function that we set up about a year ago called Boots Ignite. And so Boots Ignite, we set up to find, launch and scale new and trending brands. So the trend team are kind of spotting all of these new trends and new trending brands that are coming through. And then the Ignite team was set up to launch and scale them as fast as we can. So a key part of that is around partnership, collaborating with brands, helping them to understand the different dynamics of launching with a retailer. So we launched our first brands in December of last year. And since we've launched over 20 brands that include Wonderskin, Sashu, Medicube, Biodance, and lots more. So it's been busy, but amazing getting to know lots of great founders. Alice, over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Alice Rafferty, so I'm the Director of Luxury Beauty and Cosmetics at Boots and have been at Boots for 14 years now, so launched a lot of brands within the beauty world. Most of my time has been in premium beauty and we've been on a journey to really scale up the brands we have there, most recently entering into the salon hair world with the likes of Kerastase and Way, but in my other part of the job in self-selection cosmetics, we've had a real focus on founder brands. So hopefully you've seen we've launched some incredible brands like Sculpted by Amy, Holly Boone, The Beauty Crop, and Made by Mitchell with the fabulous Mitchell Halloway. So definitely feeling the love for founder-led brands in our world. I'll pass to Chelsey.
Cool. Thanks, Alice. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Chelsey. So I'm also Director of Beauty. So I look after skincare, hair care and fragrance at Boots. I've been at Boots 17 years. And similar to Grace and Alice, have had the pleasure of launching many brands, founder-led brands in our business over the years, most of which have probably launched in skincare, let's be honest, in recent years. So yeah, dead excited to be here today to share, I guess, knowledge from our business and hopefully give some sound advice to all of you amazing brand founders. So yeah, looking forward to the chat. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. So, one of the parts of the program is that people will be able to meet buyers. And one of the most often questions we get is, what does a buyer actually do? What's the day-to-day responsibilities of a buyer? And I guess, Alice, I'm going to direct that to you. Can you demystify the life of a buyer, please?
I can. I don't think there's any one normal day for a buyer. And I think people think of buying more traditionally like the fashion buying and going out and sourcing products, and that's probably more of our own brand world. I would say you could think of as more of category managers, and I would say the only real kind of traditional day is a Monday, where we look at sales, look at trends, look at forecasting to understand what's happened and what we need to change. But outside of that, it's really different day to day. But the main objective for our teams is how can we be number one choice for customers and suppliers. So it's about our customer facing plan and negotiating the best deals, getting the products exclusive to Boots, and kind of what the best plans are, and being number one choice for suppliers. So how can we show brands up in the best possible way? How can we create the best marketing plans and really show off the incredible brands that we have? So no single one day, but that's kind of the objective that our teams have at all points, is creating the best plan for our customers and our brands. So yeah, hopefully it demystifies a little bit.
It does. And just to be really clear, when Boots talks about categories, what does that mean? Why is that important for founders?
So I would say we split ourselves into kind of customer journey roles. So we would have a skincare team, a cosmetics team, a luxury beauty team, and a fragrance team within our beauty space, and a haircare, of course. So of course, there's a lot of journeys that go across. So wellness, for example, will go across a lot of beauty areas and healthcare. So there'll be different customer journeys there. But from an ownership point of view and a buyer thinking point of view, they tend to think category led in terms of the core customer journey, so skin or cos. Perfect.
And I imagine, given the footprint that Boots has, you're the biggest beauty retailer, biggest beauty website in the UK.
Yeah.
You're probably going to be inundated with brands every single week, large and small. And if I can sort of put to Chelsey, like, what is when you get a deck or an intro or an email or a LinkedIn, what is your selection criteria when you evaluate a brand or a product or a founder-led brand? And do you have sort of a mental tick list that you go either formally or non-formally?
Yeah, good question. I think, just touching on Alice's point as well, the way I like to describe our buyers, they're gatekeepers of what consumers see on shelves. That is the ultimate. And then getting close to that consumer and understanding that consumer is so important to the future of the category. Without knowing what our customers really want, they can't curate a range which is going to have appeal. So that's just one thing I'd add to the prior question. But yeah, I mean, look, we are inundated. Of course, we are inundated. And that's my favourite part of the job, is chatting to brands. And I think for me, when you've been in the industry quite a long time, you have a gut feel as to whether the person you're talking to, the brand you're talking to, has that desire and passion to make that brand win. This is a very competitive market. Beauty in totality is competitive. A brand founder, the person you're talking to, it might not always be a founder for us. It could be a distributor, or it could be a big FMCG as well. That passion has to shine through. That's the ultimate first tick. That passion and that customer-centric insight from the get-go has to be present in that first conversation. And if it's not, you kind of go, I'm not sure what you've based this opportunity or thinking on. If the insight is valid and the brand is rooted in that customer-centric insight, you kind of go, yeah, okay, these guys have done their research. They kind of know there's either white space, there's a new market, or there's something which will change a customer behavior. And that excites us.
I remember you, about a year ago, Chelsey, you said something to me that has always stuck with me, that
oh God.
You said that grace deserves a promotion. No, you basically said that it's essentially a real estate game, that every single product is battling for space and purchase on a Boots shelf. And to think really coldly is that if you put in a new product that's quite exciting, is that going to cannibalize the sales of something else, or can it compete with something? It's a different way of sort of thinking about the cold challenges of being a retailer. Is you've got to have something on shelf that sells.
Absolutely. And that's it. Our space is hugely competitive. And of course, we're here to make money as well. We have to sell some stuff. We're all paid to do the job we do. But yeah, and it comes down to, it could be a great idea, a great concept, but aesthetically, is the brand going to pop? Is the brand going to show up and turn heads in a store? You only have to spend an hour in a Boots shop and observe the way people shop. Yeah. And those brands that have stand out on shelf, the ones that are selling a story from literally someone just picking up a product. Of course, social channels do an amazing job, but the product has to sell on shelf on its own as well. So the aesthetics, the packaging, the format of the SKUs are all equally as important as the concept and the idea. But yeah, I don't know, Grace, whether it's worth you adding to that, given the role you've just done for the last 12 months too.
Yeah, I think like what Chelsea's outlined is very much the what, of like the what we look for and the products and the aesthetics and the claims and everything that sits around that. But the other thing we're really passionate about is understanding the when, and when is the right time to launch a brand. Because if we launch it too soon and the market's not ready for it, that means we've lost that big impact moment. We have to delist it. That's not right for us. It's not right for the brand. And we want to create launch moments and activations that build, grow, and scale a brand. We're not about those kind of big hit launches and then delisting. We're very much around partnering and scaling brands. So something we've introduced in the past kind of 12 to 24 months is much more focus on kind of utilizing metrics and analytics. So we know from that gut feel or that initial conversation or look at a brand deck, if a brand has that kind of standout appeal. But we also use a lot of data now as well to support with that decision. So we look at things such as Google searches, TikTok views, Instagram engagement, so that we can understand how big is the brand in relation to other brands, how fast is it growing, what consumers are engaging with it. And I think that has massively helped us to be able to create, as Alice said, we're category managers. We're looking at the full category. Where do we have those gaps? Is that brand filling a gap that we have? Which customers are engaging with that brand? So I think adding that analytical element has really helped us to not only get the what right, but also the when, so that we can respond at pace and also respond at the right time for the brand and also for the customer.
Putting my small business hat on, what's more important for you, for someone to really articulately and data-led validate the appetite and the growth and the demand from customers, or their own growth? Because I'm thinking some people might be operating in a space where they've seen a niche open up or new demand, but they haven't got their own growth metrics yet. What's more important? Is it the brand going worth, or is it the demand going?
I'd say it's not a one size fits all, really. It depends if there's a gap in the market and a gap in our portfolio for that need, that where we will back a brand in that space. Then of course it helps if you have already have a social following, or you already have that virality that's coming through, because then we know, back to the point that you said that Chelsea made, space on shelf is so limited, we really have to manage it. So it really depends on the brand, and it depends what need it's fulfilling for the customer, I would say. So my personal opinion, there's no kind of hard and fast rule, but I don't know if Alice, Chelsea, you would think differently or have a different opinion.
Alice, I'm really keen to hear your perspective.
No, I think Grace is right. It does genuinely depend on the product or the brand, or kind of what the customer needs you're trying to achieve. So there's not a one size fits all. I do think Chelsea's point at the start was really important, though, that it's not always the founder is as important as the brand. And there's been many occasions where I've not quite been sure on the brand, but I absolutely believe the founder will make something successful. And that doesn't mean, if you're not this kind of person, you have to be the face of it. So it's not that you have to be a Mitchell Halloway. You don't have to be, but I would have probably bought any brand that he bought to me because I believed in him, and he was absolutely going to put his heart and soul into it, and his time and his energy and passion. So I do think making sure that you build the connection with a buyer and let them see you and what your drive is as important as the brand, because people often just come in with decks and try and sell a brand, but you are selling yourself as well, really. And because ultimately we don't want to be churning brands over. We don't want to be launching a brand and losing it. We talk a lot about launch and love, and we want to build long-term relationships, and you've got to have a connection to do that. You've got to we want to go after a common goal, a common drive. So yeah, make sure that you've got that in mind, that it's as much about you as it is as the brand and your relationship with that retailer.
So on that, from an investment perspective, which a lot of the brands that we work with will be needing to raise capital, we always say that it's dating, it's building rapport, building relationship with investors, so that when you're at a stage to sort of pitch to them, you already know a bit more about what each side wants. You've built some of the chemistry, and it's a lot easier than going in with a sale. Is that the same as buyers or people at retailers? Because I think a lot of smaller brands feel they get one chance with a buyer to make a difference, and they probably go on to sales mode. What's the best mechanic to build that relationship with a buyer in order to try and get in?
Yeah, it's a good question. I always say this, and Grace will hear me say this a lot, but business is built on relationships. We do business with people. It's not a big ivory towers and big scary place. Business is built on relationships, and I've been in this industry 17 years and met a lot of people along the way. You end up meeting those same people at a different business somewhere along the way as well. So it's really important to build the relationship. And yes, we get feedback all of the time. It's going to be so scary going into Big Boots head office and talking to the buyers, but building that relationship from day one, trying to get a good understanding of that person, not as a business, is my number one piece of advice. Build a relationship, meet them for coffee first in London and just have a good chat. I think people often think as well they have to come to us with a finished article. And honestly, it's not. Come to us with an idea, a concept, a thought, and work with us on those initial ideas, and we can help give you feedback. And not just us three, we have an army of amazing people behind us that are specialists in all sorts of fields, and working with us on that initial idea can pave way for the future, because like I say, you don't have to have the finished good and expect to just do a nice shiny presentation and that's it. We encourage and we love it when people bring us in on the journey much earlier on.
And from a practical perspective, and Alice and Grace, be interested to get your perspective, it often feels quite challenging to actually get hold of the right person in a really large organization. And for efficiency, a lot of big companies try and sort of centralize an email or a pitch to go to. Other people try and go on Twitter or LinkedIn. What's the best way to actually try and find the person to build that relationship with? Is it go to events? Is it LinkedIn? Is it try an email and hope for the best? Or
Grace, you want to take how you've done it through Ignite?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'd say all of the above. I think, when you want to get in front of the right people, I think it's very much like a seek forgiveness, not permission, like, keep going until you get the answer you want, or you at least get an answer. So I think, as you said at the start, we're inundated with a lot of brands, whether that's, as Chelsey said, you build relationships. So I think the more you can get FaceTime with people. So, we go to a lot of events, whether that's conferences or trade shows, anything like that. Like actually meeting in person, I do think really helps, because then you can see that passion, you can see that kind of real interest that people have behind the brand. This program, of course, is a perfect opportunity to do that, because you're able to we're partnering with you, so you're supporting us with that process, which, as Chelsey said, we've got an army of people, but we are still kind of very stretched as a team as well. So we don't have the opportunity to kind of filter through as much as we'd like to. But I think never feel scared to pester. Like email, message on LinkedIn, go through Breakout Beauty, and just, even if it's not the right time, like I think just asking for feedback is such a great opportunity to say, okay, if not now, then why not? And we will always definitely endeavour to try and get back to you to say, why it's not the right time, or give feedback to help you understand when could be the right time. And that's why we've set up Ignite as well. So Ignite was, set up to support brands to scale into retail. We don't have a lot of space, so we're not able to support all brands, but it's definitely a key part of it, which is why we've partnered with Breakout Beauty for this program, so that we're able to launch viral trending brands, and we're also able to support emerging brands as well, so that we can be the partner to help new and emerging UK beauty brands to enter the high street.
I would definitely say that the more you can network, the better, because even if it's not retailers that you're speaking to, like Chelsey said, the beauty industry just moves around a lot. And actually, Chelsey's been in the beauty industry 17 years, I've been in 14 years, and therefore we've got a lot of people that we trust out and about, whether that's through marketing agencies or business development agencies. And quite often we'll get texts or something from them just saying, oh, I've had a chat with this person and I think it's really worthwhile you having a conversation. And if that's coming from somebody in the beauty industry that I trust, that they just happen to have had a coffee with or whatever, there's probably more likely that we're going to follow up and have a chat. And I would say in a world that we're getting hundreds of emails, that's probably the hardest place to start. Sending a brand deck it's really hard to bring a brand to life in that way. So if you can, again, build a connection with somebody that gets you that in, that's a great way to do it, and say we'll be at those events, or teams will be at those events. So you say it doesn't have to be the retailer directly, just the beauty industry talks. And if you can get somebody that believes in you, that's got the right voice, that will open doors.
The other thing I'd add in that is I think the beauty industry is such a lovely industry. Like, I think everyone's got each other's back. Everyone wants each other to do well. Everyone is so supportive. And I found so much of that. You know, there's someone I know who's a brand founder, and she's introduced me to loads of other brand founders that she knows. And, you know, it is very much like that, as Alice said. People know each other and introduce each other, and that's such a huge difference.
I think, yeah, our experience is that people have been very generous with their time, connections, and introductions, and yeah, the more generous you can be with yours, the more that sort of karma comes back to people. So totally agree with all of that. Chelsey, I'm going to give you a choice of questions because I'm keen to go to the other questions in a couple of minutes. I think one of the two questions we had is, what are the most common mistakes you see or you hate seeing smaller brands approach you with? Or the other question was that for smaller brands to get into retail, what are the bigger practical realities that they often don't have? So things like cash flow or needing to keep budget. And I think just from time perspective, I'm going to let you pick.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm going to go with the second one, just the practical bit, because that for me can often trip people up and is the most difficult. And I definitely recommend in the first instance using some of the distributors that are in this industry to have that conversation and take some of the workload. Often brand founders feel like, you know, there's a whole buzz at the minute, isn't there, about brand founders doing it all. And it's like, it's kind of impossible to do it all, particularly if you're working with someone as big as Boots. Not because we're difficult, but the reality of getting stock to us, for example, and getting it distributed to the sheer volume of stores we have, packaging the stock, it's a dark art. You know, you need expertise in some of those technical operational elements. Honestly, distributors are amazing. They help us, they help brands bring brands, and they have an amazing relationship with us. They often can take a lot of the workload out. So that's my first recommendation, is having a chat with those guys, because their expertise is definitely all of that logistical nightmare that can be. And of course, you know, the whole world of social media is that is what is growing and scaling brands. And that is a whole conversation in its own right. But, you know, just walking right into that. I was laughing actually yesterday. Brands used to email us and say, check out my website. I don't think I've ever had an email in the past 2 years that says that to me. But they used to say, check out my website, and then you kind of make a decision. Now it's like, oh my God, I need to check their TikTok, their Instagram, their WhatsApp message, everything, you know. So that having someone on point to help if you're not going to do that yourself, having someone sort of who is in the know when it comes to social execution would be my second recommendation.
Just on the distribution, if I can just again, an outrageous plug for the program, but we've got FDD International who partners on the programs. They're one of the most well-respected, well-established distributors out there. They do a whole host of things, but they've also been working with Boots for many years. Yeah. And I think once you get into the complexities of working with a Boots or any other retailer, there's so much that you don't know, that having someone to really help evaluate where you are, where you need to get to, some of the practical challenges from your packaging to your claims to your cash flow, they are absolutely golden. So we're thrilled that they're on.
They're amazing. They're an extension of our family. They honestly are. And they probably know more about the logistics part of the operations than perhaps us three. But huge asset.
Brilliant. And then Alice, same question.
So I would say maybe think about the end goal. So if the end goal is to be in retail, a lot of brands, to Chelsea's point, are started on social media or started online. And actually, you want to make sure that your packaging and your branding can translate well into store. That's a lot of the reason that people come to us, is for our bricks and mortar. So you want to ensure that it can translate. don't limit that in terms of the launch, but like if that is your end goal, think about how it would be executed so that you got really great ingredient stories or clear product names, because it's much easier to sell a product online than it is from a shelf. So you need to make sure that customer journey is still super clear. And I think also to Chelsea's point on kind of the logistics and stuff, it's a big transition going from one to the other. So if there's any other brands that you know or founders that you know that have made that journey, definitely like see if you can seek out a coach or a mentor to understand kind of where the tricky points come, because the kind of scale up can be really big, and you want to make sure that you've got that cash flow to keep going, and to be open about that conversation with a retailer. You don't feel like you need to come in and go like, I can do exactly what you say you need, because you don't want to lose the opportunity of getting into Boots. Because like I said at the start, we want to build long-term relationships, and we wouldn't want to be responsible for somebody's cash flow being struggling or challenging. So to have that conversation about kind of where the challenging points are but for you is a better thing to do. Don't feel like you have to feel like you've got the end and finished package, like Chelsea said earlier, because it's much better for us to help on that journey to make sure you're set up so that you're not in a position where you're struggling to get the scale that you want. So that would be my two big tips.
Great.
I've got a couple. So I think it's around really understanding what your scaling and distribution strategy is and how you want to scale the brand. So if you've started as a TikTok shop brand, for example, where do you want to go next, and then where, and then where? So I think it's really not kind of wanting to have a blanket approach and go in one go, because as Alice says, you really need to think about your cash flow and how you're going to manage your stock and the production of that stock. So sometimes people come say, right, we want loads of stores because they want that mass distribution. But I think I'd just be really mindful of thinking, is that the right approach? Do you want it in loads of stores first? Can you manage that? But also, do you want that? Do you want it to remain fairly exclusive, and then think about a rollout and distribution strategy for the kind of short, medium and long term? And that's something that we really partner with brands on. And the other thing for me is around marketing and having a really epic marketing plan. Like, we find that is the difference between a brand winning or losing. Being disruptive, doing something different, but also making sure you're staggering that. One, for the launch, like a launch moment, you only get it once, so you want to make it really impactful on that. So we'll partner with you on that as well and support you. But the other part is, don't spend all of your marketing spend right at the start, and then you've got that big bang launch moment, and then you can't support it to kind of grow the brand. Because I think, we see a lot of viral products and viral moments and viral trends, which is amazing. Obviously, every brand wants to go viral, but then you've got to maintain that and create a brand, not just a viral moment. So, and that's actually, I would say, the harder bit is to maintain that longevity of a brand versus the virality. And I think that's something where we've really kind of partnered closely with brands to help them to do that. So I think it's, if you're viral right now, really thinking, right, what's my plan after this? I don't want to be known for one product, or maybe I do, and how do I make sure I maintain that position in the market for that one product? Or how do I expand beyond this product and do it authentically?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Lots there. I feel we're getting the eyebrow from Sonia to get some of the questions. I understand there's quite a few that have come in.
Well, I was going to say this conversation has been brilliant. We've been getting a lot of positive feedback. So thanks, everyone. And with that, we're getting a lot of questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be the best to kind of combine some of them, because I think some of them we can kind of tackle into different pieces. So I'll start with the first one, saying, what signals tell you a brand is ready to move from D2C online/TikTok to retail shelves? And I open the floor.
Great, I feel like that's your bag.
I think the biggest thing is if the market and the customer is ready for it. Now, we have, from an Ignite perspective and also from a category perspective, we have two approaches really. So the first is an online launch, and that is definitely, it's quicker, it's easier, it's not taking space in store, there's less kind of hurdles to hit, because it's not, it doesn't have to warrant certain space in store. If it's going into store, it's about really understanding that it's the right time. So it goes back to that point I said of the what versus the why. So is there either a real need for it in the market right now, and there's a gap in our portfolio, And I think, again, that's something when we talked about, you know, what can brands do to stand out if they don't have the social metrics. It's about doing a bit of that, you know, store analysis and creating a case to say, this is why you need us, because there's this gap and this is the customer need for it, the market growth, the consumer interest, you know, engagement on this hashtag on TikTok has increased this much, so we know we're onto the right trend. And the other one is if it's a viral moment, it's a brand that's growing, and that's where we really use those social metrics. So we understand how much growth has the brand seen over the past 12, 6 or 3 months, or even the last 1 month, and what is the projected growth for that brand or product. So there's some of the key elements we would look for, either that the gap in the portfolio or the market and the consumer need, or the virality, the brand is gaining momentum and we want to get it into our portfolio. And we also look globally. So whilst Breakout Beauty is focused on the UK, we do a lot at looking at global markets, brands that are gaining popularity in different markets. Just, you know, we've done a lot in Korea recently. Australia is very much an emergent market. So we're seeing some of those brands that are gaining traction there that we think would resonate with our customer, or that the customer is ready for and we have a need for, and we'll bring those over as well.
Right.
I forgot to say at the start, if anyone's got any specific questions about the program, I'm happy to stay on for a few more minutes after the webinar to answer those directly. So yeah, I forgot to say at the start. Yeah,
no, great. No, Grace, that was really insightful, and it's so interesting how now social media has become such a big part on this conversation. You know, so thank you so much for that. Now, adding to that, the next question is, what would be the top thing a brand can do to set themselves apart from all the brands? And to add to that, actually, is what role does packaging do in all of this? Open the floor.
I don't mind starting. I've got a few thoughts on. I think the first is around, like, is the brand new and exciting? Is it doing something different? Formats, like there's so many cool formats at the minute as well. Particularly that's what's, you know, exciting about Korean brands. Packaging, claims, messaging. Packaging is huge, as you know, both Alice and Chelsey said. Getting traction on social is probably easier because you've got that full immersive sound, look, feel, product, everything. When you're in a crowded shelf with loads of different packaging and products, it's so hard to stand out. So as Alice said, you know, thinking about that element is so important of how your product is going to stand out in the physical retail space. And you know, will it go through our warehouse and not get dirty? Things like that. You know, if it's white packaging, you have to think about things like that too. If it's sat, you know, in your spare room at home ready to send it out, then you can protect it and you can look after that. When it's going through a warehouse, you know, it does get dirty. And when it's sat on a shop floor, you know, there's all those things to think about too. And I think another thing for me is around, for a brand, really having killer stats. Like for me, if I'm looking at a brand deck and the first slide is, we are the biggest selling SKU on this retailer, or we're the fastest growing hashtag in this, or our hashtag has been viewed this many times in the last month. You know, that can be anything from sales to product stats to, we love a stat. Yeah. And I think having that up front just hooks me to want to go through the rest of the pack. So they'd be some like key ones for me.
I was just going to comment on that, actually, Grace. I think building your own community when you're in development stages, you know, we talk about product reviews, we all do it. You know, we all read TripAdvisor. You know, we go on Instagram and TikTok and that's social listening. Building your own community when you're in development stages is critical. Use your friends, your family, build a network around you. They will be your advocates of the brand going forward, and you'll get a sense straight away of those people you trust and love, whether this is a winning formula or not. And build that from day one and scale it then as you launch through, you know, consumer advocacy campaigns and ratings and reviews, before and after pictures, all of that stuff. Will come on the back of that. But yeah, build your community as you're in the development. Don't do it on your own. Don't, you know, use the people around you.
We have had examples of that in the past, haven't we, where brand like the Beauty Crop, for example, got their customers to say they want to be in Boots, or they want a specific product in Boots, and it got the attention of our social team, and it was actually our social team that said, I think you need to list this line. So it doesn't always come the traditional way. I'm not suggesting everyone starts tagging us on social media, but it got our attention, and we did follow it through because we saw there was a customer demand. But yeah, there is fun and unique ways to get people's attention, I think.
And not to be a blatant plug once again, We've actually got Ning from the Beauty Co-op who's going to be talking about her experiences and growing her.
Great, she's great.
She's the founder. She's amazing. So she's going to be meeting the cohort as well for Breakout Beauty. Second plug is for those near London, the 15th and 16th of October, there's the London Packaging Conference, London Packaging Week. I think they do one in Birmingham as well. But to Grace's point earlier about trying to meet people in the flesh, there's some fantastic brands, including a lot of people from Boots and Trinity London and Grace Studio, Breakout Beauty, talking about the importance of packaging. So events like that, you can really learn a ton of free great stuff, but also you can rugby tackle people straight after the event and get some FaceTime with them. So there are some really interesting panels there. So you should go along. Sonia.
Well, actually, that was great, Paul, because some of the questions were, are there any interesting events to attend? So that was a great plug. Okay, moving on. We've got a few more to go through. And this one's interesting, and it's been directed to all three. And the question is, what is the one thing or trend you are looking for? We say Breakout Beauty UK program, but I'm going to extend it to in general. What is the biggest trend you're looking for in beauty right now? Grace, if you'd like to begin, we can start off and then we'll see where it takes us.
There's not one thing in particular, to be honest. I think the beauty industry is just moving at such a pace, and there's so much newness coming into it, and it's being influenced by so many sectors. So we're seeing an increasing influence on aesthetics, on skincare, for example, and on, you know, wellness, on holistic beauty, and thinking about taking collagen alongside using skincare and you know, LED masks. And so it is very much around this kind of 360 holistic approach to beauty that we're seeing. So I just can't wait. I think that I love meeting founders, entrepreneurs, brand owners, because they see opportunities and they see signals. And, you know, coming from the world of trends, my favorite thing is spotting signals and saying, oh, there's something coming and I can see it. And it might not even be in beauty yet. It might be something that you've seen in the food industry and thought, oh, imagine if we could take, you know, the learnings from that and bring it into beauty. And I think that's where the most exciting things come from. So I wouldn't want to steer in any direction, because I think that's the best thing about not being in a corporation and having that freedom to be completely open about, you know, what that brand could be. So yeah, I'm not looking for a particular trend, just some exciting ideas from entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because all beauty areas are like got areas of exciting growth, whether that is drugstore beauty and the more accessible cosmetics areas, whether that's just hair care as a general is the most searched beauty area on TikTok, and is definitely seeing the kind of the skinification of hair, where people are understanding their scalp and ingredients more. And I mean, and as skincare just continues to evolve, so there's definitely areas in all of them. The thing that I really love when I speak to founders is the why they came up with the brand. Like Daisy, for example, at Glow For It, when she talked about her pulling her eyelashes out when she was stressed out at uni, and she just went and created this product and this brand. And it blows my mind, because whilst I'm in this industry all the time, I just think it's so admirable that somebody had this idea and then also the guts to run and do something with it. So it's understanding that why. And when we launched Made by Mitchell, he spoke so passionately at our launch event, and it was so personal that he was saying that he was that young gay boy that didn't want to ask his parents for pocket money and wanted to have a beauty brand that he could go and feel included in and felt accessible from a price point of view. That was such a big why for him, and then he went and created a brand that's now so incredible. So I think that for me kind of takes the conversation to a different level, is when I really understand where the idea came from and then what gave you the passion to run and go with it. Chelsey, if you've got anything to add on that?
To plug Mitchell as well, podcasts are such a fantastic resource of knowledge of people that have done it and gone there. So TikTok Shop have behind the hashtag podcast, where Mitchell talks for an hour about how he went from where he was to getting into retail to growing his brand. Colette from the Inky List also shares all of the experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly, the terrifying and the mistakes. So again, all of the founders that you're looking for have probably talked about their hands-on experiences and the mistakes they made, and it's an untapped resource, I believe.
Colette and Mark used to be buyers at Boots, so they started in our world.
My favourite podcast at the minute is Ladies Who Launch with Rochelle Humes, and there is just a plethora of knowledge on. I listen to it every single week consistently, because I learn something new every single time I do. So yeah, there's some incredible brand founders on that podcast.
I don't think there's anyone hasn't interviewed.
Yeah, she needs to get us on there. Grace can go first.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking time, each of you, to answer that. And I think this is a great lead-up question is, obviously, we probably have a lot of small brands in the audience with us today. And some of the most reoccurring questions is, how does one differentiate themselves when competing against big legacy brands with huge budgets? Especially when we speak about one other question, just to add to that, is, where does one put the money? And then when you're a small brand, especially when you have to go into retail, as we imagine, there's a lot of cash flow there. So part one is, how do we differentiate ourselves within legacy? And how do we look at where the cash flow needs to go if you want to be successful in retail? Open.
I think some of the most exciting brands are the ones that don't have all the money, to be honest, because you think differently. You haven't got a pot to pull from and think, right, we'll put this much there and this much there. You have to be disruptive and you have to think outside the box. And they're the brands that stand out. Like, they're the ones that gain traction. They're the ones that, really resonate with consumers, because they are, they're putting themselves out there. They're sharing their stories on social media. So I wouldn't worry about the fact or feel like you're going up against like a big company, because we see it as very much, as Alice said right at the start, we're managing the whole category, and it's not all about kind of big players or small. It's very much around creating a range that's relevant for the customer. So I think it's just around, I think that the reason for being, as Alice said, is such a big part of it. Like that drives you forward to know, why have I created this product? Why am I so passionate about it? That I think makes you stand out, especially if you're sharing that story on social, because then customers really get behind you as well. And that's what then causes the beauty crop example of everyone tagging saying we need it in store. So I think just believe in your brand, and have the confidence to put it forward. Get yourself out there, be at events, talk to people, network. No question is a stupid question, or nobody's better than anybody else, or we're all in the industry, we're all kind of there to support each other. So I would say social is such a big part of it, and social's free. You can gain traction on social with no paid ads behind it. Yes, they help, but often I feel like sometimes if I see hashtag ad on a post, I pay less attention than if I don't. So I think, really leveraging social and getting behind that and getting that community behind you, for me, is such a big important part of it, and money isn't associated with that.
And
I was going to say, based back to that building a relationship with the buyer as well. Turn it on its head and think of it as an opportunity. Those big corporations are incredible and, of course, drive a huge amount of our business, but they have to get most things signed off by their global team or their big team. And actually, a lot of our teams want to do the creative stuff and the fun and exciting local events. And say, back to Mitchell, he was like, can I paint one of your shops? We're like, yes, you can paint one of our shops. And that seems fun and it's different. And it's allowing our teams to have a bit of creativity. So don't feel like you're up against. Think about how that's a unique difference for you. You can react and work with our teams really quickly and come up with some new creative ideas that maybe we haven't thought of, and bring some fun to the beauty industry with Boots. So don't think of it as a negative. Think about the positive sides of not being part of a big company.
Chelsey.
Yeah, I was just reading some of the questions, actually. I'm just conscious we're running out of time. There was a couple that were really interesting to me, of brands that are perhaps on the call that are operating outside of the UK. And I think it's a really important note. Boots, we are accessible for all. We are our legacy is 176 years old. We offer products right from 50p to £500. There is no rules. Talk to us. This program may be set up for brands in the UK, but continue to talk to us. We, of course, list brands from across the globe. America, France, Germany. We have brands from everywhere. So no, don't ever be fear that we specifically partner with UK brands. We partner with whatever consumers want. That's the data we use. So yeah.
I think so on that, a lot of questions we've had over the past few weeks is, I think I'm ready in some levels to the program, but not others. I would just urge you to apply anyway, because your applications are going to be looked at by us, by buyers, by TikTok Shop, by investors, by a whole plethora of people involved in the program. So it might take 10 minutes, but there's a potential opportunity there that, it might lead to another conversation. We're going to be doing loads of other stuff for the people that didn't get through, and for people that are too early on the landing page, which Sonia, if you can just put the link in again. If you are far too early, we've got a form there you can fill in, so you're on our radar. So it might be great for next year. So please go through. I think one of the questions I had for you, Grace, just to sort of add on to the last one, is how honest or upfront or transparent should a smaller brand be about their financials? So they might come to you and they might have 5k, 20k in their budget, but they really want to get into retail, but to do that they might need operating capital or investment. Should they be upfront of going, we can get there, but we're not there yet? Or what's the dynamics of that financial conversation about the affordability of getting into retail with Boots?
100%. I mean, with anything, honesty is always the best policy. Like as Alice said, we can't support you to grow and scale in the right way if we don't know what's happening kind of behind the scenes, or if there's some challenges that you are facing into, or you're concerned about certain elements. So for example, if we were to launch you in X amount of stores and you don't have the cash flow in order to do that, but you say yes, and then you take bank loans out, and then then it's not benefiting you because you're struggling and you're concerned about rate of sale or something, and it's not benefiting us, because then if it doesn't work and you've got a mess, then we would never want to be responsible for that. So I think that's where that relationship with the buyer is so important. And that's why we've set up a program like Boots Ignite to collaborate and to partner and to support brands to scale. Because, we know that the industry's changed. There's a lot of small founder-led brands. There's a lot of self-funded companies out there now. You don't have the big pockets and the big budgets of big brands. So that's where, it's about having that ongoing conversation, the relationship. And I go back to the point I made before, the what, but also the when. The when is really important for us, but it's hugely important for you. If you get to a point where you come to us and we say, yes, we want to list you, don't be scared to say, I need 6 months. Can you list me at this time? I'm not ready now. There's nothing wrong with that. We would sooner you do that than us face so many challenges because you're not quite ready. And I think, again, that's where a distributor can really help with some of those conversations as well, with helping you with keeping your stock in a warehouse and managing that relationship and sorting things like payment terms. And, they can really support with elements like that. So I think that can really help you to have someone to, you don't know what you don't know sometimes. So I think having a distributor can really support with some of those conversations too.
I think the one thing with our partnership with Boots on this that you've said from the very start, it's about building long-term relationships with brands, and it feels that's sort of integral to the DNA of Boots and how you work with these brands. I think to that point, again, it's okay to push things back 6 months in order to have a more successful 5, 10, 15-year relationship. Boots wants you to grow and do really, really well, which is great. Have we got time for one last question? And then
yes, I was just actually looking, what would be the best way to kind of end this Q&A before we kick off with Breakout Beauty? And there's just so many to choose from. I guess a lot of questions people are asking is actually, what are some of the most popular categories in Boots right now? I think everyone is always trying to jump on the biggest trend. So people really want to know, what are people buying at this stage? And if we can't disclose, at least even from your
we can give you the top 3 categories. Skincare is our biggest category in the business. So if, we have the most amount of stores, the biggest distribution, the biggest amount of brands. When it comes to skincare, across from Boots brand, a brand we're very proud of, right the way through to premium skincare brands, pharmacy services. We offer acne clinics, mole checking, all of that. So skin is by far our biggest category. And we've been doing some really cool stuff in that space. So you've probably seen the most recent launch of many K beauty brands, which is performing very well for us. So very much tapping into some of the stuff we were talking about earlier on. Very interesting textures, amazing formulas, very affordable. And that's a whole category that's launched in the last 12 months. That's come from across the globe, very far away. And that was very much identified by Grace and her team as a trend, with those early signals sort of highlighting to us a huge potential opportunity, and we've definitely realised that. So yeah, skin is our biggest category, luxury beauty is number 2, and then fragrance is our 3rd biggest category. Yeah, so they're the big 3.
In the trends report that comes out, is there anything in there that a tenacious founder could see in terms of getting some of the hints or tips or data to really demonstrate that their brand is right for Boots?
Yeah, sure. So you can access our trend report on our website. So if you just Google kind of the 2025 Boots Beauty Trend Report, this is something we do every year. And it's our forecast of what we're seeing for the coming year and beyond. So you see in there, we had quite a lot in there around longevity. We're seeing longevity as a huge trending opportunity, lots around kind of NAD. We look a lot also around, super interested around the impact of, GLP-1 and what that is going to do to skin, wellness, people's approach towards health and beauty is super interesting. There's tons of insights that you can get online. Companies like Stylist, WGSM, Intel, they have loads of trend reports and a blog that's free to use as well, which would be really helpful. But what is also interesting is in the top 3 categories that Chelsey mentioned, that's from kind of our Boots sales perspective. But as Alice mentioned it earlier, the biggest category by quite a long shot actually on TikTok is hair. And we're seeing hair have like incredible growth in many different ways as well. So some is a lot around people protecting and looking after the health of their hair. So we've seen that a lot coming through, like the skinification of hair. But the other one is hair thinning and hair loss. So I think I often say that, hair thinning and hair loss is often being targeted towards men. And now we're really seeing the diversification of that category, and people, many people suffer with hair loss, whether it's through stress, through the menopause, through hormones, through childbirth. There's a lot of different elements that can cause that. For men and women, and any gender can really suffer from that. So we're really seeing a shift in that subcategory, I'd say, just in everything from marketing, packaging, claims, messaging, the way that it shows up. So I think there's something really exciting in there.
Perfect. And then maybe the final question, very quickly, quickfire question. Is there anything you're really hoping to see from the applications for Breakout Beauty?
Ooh.
For me, I would say something new and different. I love that entrepreneur mindset that comes through. I'd love for people to be thinking around not just what is their product and what is their range, but how are they going to show up? So what is their activation strategy? If they were to launch into Boots, how would they want it? We talk a lot in the trend report, we say URL to IRL, and we really want to own that IRL space. So when you launch it from online to in real life, how will you create that in real life execution? What will the customer experience when they kind of come face to face with your brand? I think that's a big part of it. And the other thing for me is what Alice mentioned earlier, is that founder story. Like, I think beauty and wellness are so emotive. There's so much emotion that is centered around beauty and wellness. And I think that's why we've stayed in the industry for so long, because it's not only something that makes people look good, it makes people feel good. And some people can't leave their house because they don't feel confident that day. And I think beauty and wellness plays such a huge role in people's lives. So if there's a story in the why, that really stands out for me. So yeah, I'd love to hear some of that as part of the application process.
Alice,
I think Grace covered it perfectly. Yeah, it's definitely that why people came up with the brand is something that I find personally really interesting. And I guess linking it back to our customer. So why is it going to get them excited? Why is it going to bring them into a Boots shop? Like, we always talk about the why would someone cross town? So there's a Boots in every town, every city. Every person's basically 10 minutes away. But what's going to make them do that 10-minute walk? So like, what is the reason for them to go and explore your brand and get them excited? So we always try and think about that as well when we look at brands.
Amazing. And Chelsey?
Yeah, I am continually blown away by some of the new ideas on how to execute on socials. Like, every time some of these new emerging brands come to us and, we're going to do this, and you're like, oh my God, where the hell did you get that idea from? You have to be so disruptive to get people's attentions on socials. And I'm so excited to see some of the ideas that you guys have. So yeah.
Amazing. We've got some fantastic applications so far, some great creativity coming on as well. So I'm conscious it's lunchtime. I want to thank all three of you so much again. I know how busy you are, so it's incredibly generous to give us our time and such brilliant insight. Thank you. I think for people listening, we're going to be putting this up on our Growth Studio YouTube. We'll share the link with you so that if you want to go back and hear any parts or make any notes, you can. I'm going to stay on for a few minutes more, just in case there's any questions specifically around the program, about applications, about things that you want to ask that I might be able to ask that Boots can't. But I think from Grace, Alice, Chelsey perspective, we'll let you go and go and find the next $1 trillion beauty brands, which I'm sure could be in your inbox. But thank you so much, and thank you everybody as well for your brilliant questions. And
No problem.
Thanks,
Thanks for
everyone.
having us. Thanks for joining.
perfect.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Happy day. Great.
Hello, single heart floating up. Obviously, we did okay.
Yeah, we love that. We do actually have a couple of questions about the program, but I think now we've got a lot coming in. I think we managed to cover quite a bit during today's session. One question that stood out to me is distribution going to be part of the Breakout Beauty program as well?
We'll be touching on it. So, as part of what we're trying to do is cover a lot in 6 weeks. And the way that we've created the program is look at the sort of 3 or 4 things that a brand has to do brilliantly in order to scale their business. So the first one is really understand the retail strategy. Now, Boots will be delivering a lot of that because Boots are really keen to launch at least 2 into shelf, and they want to make sure that whoever goes into shelf knows what they're doing. But a lot of those principles will apply to other retailers as well. We've got TikTok Shop and some of their partners introducing how you can operationally scale a TikTok strategy to sell a shit ton of products, to find new customers. And the third area is around investment and working capital. So we have Venrex, who are early investors in Charlotte Tilbury, talking about, if you want to raise equity investment, where do you start? What do you do? How do you go about it? We've also just brought on a bank name to be announced shortly, who can also talk to some of the working capital as well. I think people that can help you through all of that is FDD International. As I said, they are one of the most respected, well-known, fantastic distributors. They've worked with Boots for a long time, and I think they'll be running sessions, and one thing they can talk to is what to expect, what are the challenges, what are the common mistakes, what do they always tell founders or new brands to look out for before they start getting into Boots. Now, when you get into Boots or any retailer, they run a massive national, huge operation. So you've got to think really forensically around your packaging, your claims, your legals, your insurance, your wastage, your unit economics, everything. And they can support with a lot of that as well. From a Growth Studio perspective, our company, we'll be making sure with that sort of consistent thread throughout. So we'll be running a couple of sessions with you to make sure that all of the advice has been grounded and supported with you. And making introductions to our network as and where we can. And then finally, we've got, I think, possibly the best who's of beauty founders, from names all of you will know, who'll be coming in and talking about their experiences. So you may have seen the Colette from InkyList webinar last week. If you don't, go and see it. She's unbelievable. We've got a few more really high profile names as well who'll be talking about how they did it, what they did, their experiences, their mistakes. So a lot of well-known people.
Amazing. And you know what, actually I think that adds quite well, because somebody here was asking, how does one get sort of financial support as well? And I think what Breakout Beauty will bring is sort of those valuable connections that I think can help tackle a lot of these issues people have.
We tackle it in 2 ways. I think one is from a realistic perspective, we are looking, a big win for us is that at least 2 of the brands go into Boots within 6 to 9 months of the end of the program. That's the kind of area we're looking at, is can these brands show that they could? You might want to be raising equity investment where people take a small percentage of your company for money, or you might need working capital, which is debt or grants or loans. And Venrex will be, and us will be helping guide you to come to a decision about what money is best for you right now in order to get to the next level. And again, people like FDD can really advise, how Boots and FDD can both advise on sort of the best approach to scaling and what sort of funds you need and funds to maintain your retail strategy.
Amazing. Well, I realize we are sort of at the end. What I think we could do, Paul, is I'm going to collect the rest of the questions and maybe we could find a way to collate for people that have come today, because they keep flowing and I think we could stay here for another hour just to answer. But I think we could sort of sum up some bits that I just want to make sure are aware for everybody. And I think it ties in with some of the questions in regards to selection process. Just for everyone to be aware of timings, applications are closing on September 30th. For anyone that has applied and want to reapply, we would suggest that you would reapply with the new application form. And for anyone that's still looking to apply or still finishing their application, please look for your personal link in your email. If you have any problems, please message us at hello@growthstudio.com. Selection processes are also happening in the beginning to mid-October. So you will receive an email from us if you've come through to the next stage. And as Paul mentioned, for anyone that it feels are not at the right stage, please still apply. And there is a link on our website for people that may still think they're early stage, but they want to be part of a beauty founder community. We have that community for you. So
I think final one, and then I have to jump, is the selection process. We're looking at selections, applications quite holistically from an investment perspective, a founder perspective, a program perspective, a retail readiness perspective, a category perspective. There's lots of different eyes on it. So I know that we've set some parameters around the ideal profile of how much you're turning over, about where your company is. If you fit some of those, apply. If you don't, that's okay. If you are too early stage, there is a form on the website where you can just go, look, we're not ready yet, but we want your details nonetheless. It also helps us stay in touch to do loads more of these, which we're intending to do. So any questions, shout. And thank you very much, everyone. Take care.
thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of your day and we will be in touch.
Bye.
Bye.